Working as a creative is fucking amazing. Cool projects, getting paid to do what you love for a living. It's the stuff dreams are made of. Don't hire that guy, he's so annoying. Annoying? What? I don't even know who you are. Adam who? I've never heard of him. I'm really good. Check out my show reel. Ah, my back. Ah, I feel so sore. What did I do to deserve this? This might be you in the future if you don't listen up to these 9 creative life lessons I have. Not relying on how you feel to dictate your productivity. Being a freelance creative means that unless you're actively working on a project, you can pretty much spend your days doing whatever you want. Powering through that awesome PS5 game or getting those muscles nice and relaxed. But having loads of free time isn't a guarantee that you're going to be using it effectively. Work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion, so even though we may get a bunch of productive stuff done with this free time, we're probably not going to be using it as effectively as we could be. There's a reason companies have solid time block schedules for how their employees are going to be spending their time hour by hour. But this kind of rigidity can put creatives off. After all, we chose this lifestyle specifically because we didn't want to work in a typical office job. But if you can take the best methods from these traditional job practices and apply them to your everyday life, it'll mean that you can actively make progress with the projects that you have while still leaving enough time to relax and reward all of your good work. Which is why I treat working from home on my own projects as if I was working within an office environment, with time slots for my morning exercise, my lunch, and YouTube screenwriting block. I was hyper resistant to this first, thinking it wouldn't nearly be as fun as just going with the flow in terms of whatever I felt like I wanted to do that day. And honestly, it definitely isn't. But the satisfaction I feel at the end of a day knowing that I used my time incredibly efficiently is higher than the joy of having complete flexibility. The huge advantage in having a time block schedule means that I don't even have to think about what I'm going to do next because I've already planned it all out in the morning. And that seems to reduce a bunch of friction that I would have felt before trying to decide what I should actually be putting my time towards. And it helps build these actions into habits that from week to week becomes easier and easier to do. If you don't quite feel ready to go full on with time blocking, you could try and start with a daily highlight that you're going to be focusing on to complete by the end of the day. It can be anything that is either urgent or will fill you with a level of satisfaction knowing that you made some really good progress towards that thing. Oh, and remember, a highlight or a task doesn't always have to be about completely finishing something. To have write 500 words of my next YouTube video as a task is a perfectly fine activity to place your focus on. Now, I'm not so strict with all of this that if a friend of mine happened to be in the neighborhood and sent me a message saying, hey, let's meet up for a coffee, I'm not going to turn around and say, no, you fall out of my strict time schedule, I cannot meet you. You still need to be open for things that unexpectedly come up in the day that are worth being distracted by. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to keep up with this strategy long term, and you're probably going to piss off a lot of people close to you because you come across as someone being way too important for even a 30-minute coffee catch-up. Who needs coffee to be productive? Losers. Money demotivates if you don't know what it's for. Money, we all want it. Once we get some, we want even more of it. We've all done some not very fun things for money. That part-time job working for that a-hole manager, you'd be out there in a heartbeat if you weren't getting that sweet, sweet moolah. But if you ever find yourself in somewhat of a gray area doing something you enjoy, you don't love it, but you find it, somewhat enjoyable, and all you're doing with that money is saving it for a rainy day with no other goals of what else you can use it for other than to, survive and feed yourself. That's really not a fun place to be in. I had this experience when working as a lighting technician on TV commercials back in 2016. I remember getting an amazing opportunity working on Aldi's upcoming Christmas commercials for 2 weeks straight, where I'd be getting paid £350 a day, which was an amazing amount of money for me. At the time, I was living back home with my mum to save money, so I just knew all of that money could be stuck in a bank account waiting there in case I ever needed it. But here was the problem. Other than putting this money aside, I had no other aim or goals of what I was going to use this money for. On the first few days of that shoot, I was learning a lot, getting to try out some new lights and techniques that I'd never encountered before. But getting 5 days in, it was essentially a Groundhog Day type of shoot. The same things, the same lighting setup, day after day after day after day after. I remember having an epiphany one day when the director of photography was doing a tracking shot into a turkey for like the 20th time. I would feel much better working as a cinematographer on a zero paid but incredibly creative music video shoot than to work one more day here getting paid £350. Now, I don't want you to think that I was ungrateful for being in this position. I understood that even back then, so many up and coming creatives and filmmakers would kill to be in the position that I was in, essentially getting to play around with lighting all day for a good amount of money. But what it did reveal to me is that getting money for money's sake isn't a good enough motivator. And I hadn't developed any kind of system for how I would spend and save the income that I made. And there wasn't any goals for how I would leverage these funds to help progress in my career. So I stumbled across a book called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I don't think the book is particularly well written, but what I did take from it was this one technique called pockets, in which you make different money accounts for different purposes. One for all of your essentials, so this is your everyday and monthly spending, rent, food, things like this. Then you have another one called financial freedom, which is to buy things that directly make you money. Be it a new camera or a laptop that's going to help you edit faster. And equally as important, you have one called play money, which is to buy all the things that have no particular career advantage, but they make you feel good and entertained. So things like video games and that new fancy Apple Watch. Then you set a percentage amount to each of these that your income will go into. So if you make $300 on that film shoot, you could put 80% of that into your essentials account, 15% of that into your financial freedoms account, and then 5% of it into your play money. Once I started doing this, it completely changed my whole psychology around money. Money making like this felt way more fun, and I could work out exactly how much more money that I needed in order to be able to afford that new fancy lens or that awesome video game. All the while avoiding making these purchases become detrimental to my ability to actually survive. As proof of how powerful this method has been for me, I started doing it when I had as little as £200 in my bank account. And now 7 years later, I still use this method whenever I receive income from my freelance clients. I have a lot more pockets now as my income has increased to save money for more specific categories. Things like outsourcing, which goes towards hiring my YouTube editor, and education and mentors, which I set aside to purchase things like online courses that help level up my skill sets. So if you've ever found it tricky to justify purchasing that new piece of gear that you've had your eye on for a while, I strongly suggest you give this method a try. It'll seriously change your whole perception around money making, and it'll be an amazing accelerant towards acquiring money that will level up your skill sets or just chill you out in front of a new favorite PlayStation game. People change, and so might you. Being focused on a goal and taking the steps to reach it is an incredibly important part of achieving any high level of success. But in this climb, you can sometimes have your peripheral vision cut off from the incredible opportunities close to you. A lot of these are pure distractions that you're better off to say no to and avoid, but other times these can actually be shortcuts to get towards your goals faster, or even entirely different paths that will lead you towards a better future that you couldn't have even originally planned for. From my own life, I started out with the idea of becoming a YouTuber at 12 years old, but I felt I hit a crossroad with this path. Do I focus on becoming a YouTuber, or do I instead shift my attention towards becoming a proper filmmaker, like the kind of filmmaker that would eventually win an Oscar? And after some consideration, I decided that the latter was the way to go. But as I hit my mid-20s, an opportunity opened up for me to work full-time as the video guy for a YouTube channel. A tricky decision that required a pause to all of the connections that I'd been establishing in the UK for many years before. My mindset at the time was that I didn't have a lot to lose. If I didn't like it after a few months, I could just move from Budapest back to the UK. But fast forward 5 years later, I'm still here. And my previous goal of wanting to become an Oscar-winning filmmaker has now transformed into wanting to build a successful YouTube channel of my own. If I was so locked into the ideals behind what I wanted from my life and career, and not at all open to experimentation or alternative visions for what the future could be like, I'd still be back in the UK grinding away on film shoots. Maybe I'd even be more successful or have more money than I do now. But all I know is that the satisfaction that I get from making YouTube content is pretty much the same as what I used to get from making music videos. And the level of freedom envisioning a future where I can make a living from creating content anywhere that I am in the world is a position that so many aspiring creatives wish they could have. Neither is better or worse of a lifestyle than the other. It's just about what you want your everyday life to look like and what will satisfy you in the long run. So keep your head and ears up as you move through your creative journey, because one opportunity or decision could change your life in ways that previously you only could have ever dreamed of. You're gonna miss the struggle when it's gone. We all want to reach that destination of X amount of money or those accolades that we've been dreaming of since we first got into our creative craft. But weirdly, when I look back at all of my past experiences, going from absolutely no knowledge at all in filmmaking to where I am now with my skill set, I oddly have fond memories of those early days. There were so many new skills that I was being exposed to and a lot of realizations about myself as a person. Knowing I could go from zero money as a lighting trainee to £350 a day in just a few months by pushing myself to cold call and reach out to various production companies was absolutely mind-blowing to me at the time. All of these events and actions required me challenging my limiting beliefs, and the successes and failures I experienced along the way all felt like they would come together and amount to a life that I would be incredibly proud of. Other than a few select moments, now I don't really experience as many close-knit moments of highs like I did back then. Hitting 1K subscribers on YouTube was a massive deal for me. Hitting 5? Not so much. The author Seth Godin talks a lot about this in relation to learning any new skill in life. That at the beginning, learning all of these new skills motivates you, but after a while, a lack of novelty starts to kick in, and this might trigger you to quit that creative path entirely. So if you're deep in the trenches right now, building up your creative craft, try and let the hope that you felt in those early stages be a motivator, but also don't distance yourself too much from the grind of what you're going through right now. Remembering the struggles in those early phases are going to help you once you're not there anymore, keeping you humble to where you came from and where you're aiming to be in the near future. You can fuck up everything except your health. I'll be honest, when I was in my early 20s, I really didn't care as much about this. I pretty much ate whatever I wanted. I wouldn't ever say that I was really unhealthy, being brought up on home-cooked Italian food for most of my adolescence, but I didn't really put that much emphasis towards what I was putting into my body. However, as I neared the end of my 20s, I started to notice how my energy levels started to feel different, and getting ill or injured from sports took noticeably longer for me to recover from. So what did I do? I ignored it. Sort of. Assuming small changes like an extra 3-kilometer run a week would be enough to keep old age at bay. It didn't. At 28, my regular exercise routine and late night edit sessions caught up with me, and previous childhood anxiety attacks came back to cripple my everyday activities. I would have traded any amount of money, status, or hot babes just to feel normal day to day, without this cloud of anxiety and hypochondriac tendencies hovering over me. It was these unpleasant experiences that made me realize that my health must be brought to the forefront of my attention, above any late night 2 a.m. edit sessions or back-breaking 14-hour day film projects. There are times as a creative when you do have to push yourself, no doubt, but long-term, avoiding your physical and mental health is going to have some serious consequences for you in the future. Nowadays, I exercise every day. Running, bouldering, gym, yoga, no matter what, I'm moving my body. If hypochondria is a core element to my anxiety, then running, a sport that research says can decrease the risk of heart disease by up to 35%, but mentally calms me down with the knowledge that I'm upping my chances of staying healthy for as long as possible. Life is a marathon, and many of us have so much time to achieve all of our goals with discipline and compound interest. And you're not going to be able to sustain this as easily if you hit your 40s and your back is just constantly throbbing because you've been avoiding exercise the years prior, and you're fully out of breath from climbing a few sets of stairs. So start compounding your health for the better. After all, your future self is gonna reward you for it. Your invisible reputation. You might think, if other people like you, but behind their compliments of, oh, you're such a lovely person, they might actually think you're a bit of an a-hole. And they've shared this opinion with all of their friends too. The little actions you do around others all amount to a representation of who you are as a person. And if you piss one person off, that'll ripple down through multiple levels of social connections. This can result in people not wanting to work with you or even recommend you to other people that they know. And the worst part is you probably won't have any idea about this. But what I did do is put more effort into being social with humility and curiosity towards others. Learning the skills of becoming a likable person does sound a bit weird, and it almost feels like it's just something that you're either born with or you're not. But I don't think it's that simple. You might have picked up bad habits from your childhood siblings, like constantly clipping the end of other people's sentences or always nodding your head and whenever somebody else is talking. That certainly makes people not feel particularly relaxed to be around you. It's not just about being a, quote, nice person. It's about being easy to get along with many different types of personalities. This is so important that whenever I'm in the position to decide on the crew that are going to work on my film project, how nice of a person that they are often counted for more than their filmmaking abilities. Honestly, I'd much rather have someone who is humble, who is open to being taught, and who can take on feedback well, than someone who is one of the best people in the world at a particular skill set, but they're kind of a bit weird and you're really not going to feel good spending all day collaborating with them. So how do we get better at this whole being likable thing? Well, I'm not gonna lie, it is tricky. Watching back videos of yourself is a really good shortcut to spot any odd quirks that you might have in your physical behavior, but also being brave to ask friends you trust about how you might be able to improve as a person. Your mannerisms, speaking style, hygiene, all of these things build towards you being someone that others feel good to be around. Take your social interactions with the same kind of serious that you would if you were going on a first date. No, you don't have to wear your sexiest smelling cologne, but you do have to be aware of how the other person is feeling in the moment and how to end your time with them on a positive note, reminding people you exist. Now you've got your solid reputation built up, but so do the 10 other upcoming creatives in your industry. So how are you going to stand out from the rest of them? Work more hours and go above and beyond to give the people that hire you the best possible creative collaboration experience that they've ever had. Well, you can, and sometimes you should do this, but A simpler way would be just to remind them that you exist. I look at my usage of social media through a lens of reminding others that I exist. This can be as big as posting a teaser trailer of that new kick-ass music video that you just made, or sharing your progress of how you're getting along with learning how to DJ. Of course, the way in which you're going to remind them plays a big part in the kind of invisible reputation that you're building for yourself. You looking all sexy and chilling by the beach might make people more jealous than inspired to want to reach out and collaborate with you. A few years ago, I started to notice how so many people that I followed in my social circle would never ever do a video of themselves talking candidly in front of the camera about a topic. And I always really admired the individuals that I followed that could have the bravery to do this. I felt way more connected to people that could do this because it just seemed like they were being a lot more real than the more lame, perfect Instagram photo with a boring caption underneath. I had a massive blockage around the idea of speaking so candidly in front of a lens. And I knew one of the only ways to cure this was to just push myself to speak about a topic related to my life in some vulnerable or stupid way. I distinctly remember sharing a video I posted on YouTube back in 2017 where I talked about some of the insights that I'd taken away from that year, and this ended up getting watched by a video producer that I had worked with on a few previous shoots. 2 days after that video was released, she emailed me asking for my availability on an upcoming shoot. Now, there's no way I can 100% prove that this video that I made on YouTube was the direct reason that she ended up reaching out to me, but it seems too inconvenient to not believe that my long-haired face ranting in front of the camera didn't somehow put me in the forefront of her mind when she was pondering who she could get on this project. I know it's easier said than done for some of us to go ahead and post ourselves so candidly online, but perceiving it as reminding people about yourself and your life, and a part of branding yourself for future creative and social opportunities, might make it a more motivating activity for you. Sharing something of potential value to help others can help you stand out above the noise of all the other people in your industry who are equally lovely people. But when they're not physically with you on a project, they end up just disappearing into the ether like ghosts, or become guilty of posting incredibly cringy flexing about their seemingly perfect lives. There is a fine line between thinking that everything that comes out of your mouth is valuable and being a complete, arrogant, egotistical a-hole. But it's equally as bad to be so self-conscious about the opinions and thoughts of others that you end up never sharing anything online and just stay crippled by the mindset of, oh, what do I have to teach anybody? I don't know anything. I'm not good enough. You are good enough. Just do it. Sorry about that. I got a bit inspired by Shia LaBeouf there, but it is true. Be the person to nurture friendships. Working on progressing in your craft is of course crucial, but please don't let this get in the way of nurturing the relationships that you have with others. And I don't just mean the creative collaborators that you have in your circle, I also mean the non-work related people in your life. There's some quite scary statistics about the time that you spend with other people as you get older, and the time that you spend with your friends drastically decreases as you move through life. Obviously, leaving school/university plays a big role in this in your early 20s, but I also think it's because a lot of us become guilty of this pattern of not being the person to reach out to try and reconnect with a friendship or suggest a meetup in person. Perhaps because being the person to do the reaching out, it puts you in a situation where you can kind of get rejected by the other person saying, nah, I'm too busy. Life is just crazy and we don't have time to meet up. I myself have fallen into this trap of thinking, oh, they'll message me if they really want to hang out or if they have free time to. I don't want to disturb them. You know, that simple little Instagram convo that we had in one of the photos, that's enough of us, you know, staying in touch and making our friendship continue. No, this isn't the same thing as hanging out in person. Some of the best moments and memories in my life were shared in group activities with friends. Regular movie nights, video game nights, camping, things like this. And after these events, I'd always feel way more energized, putting a bit of a kick up my ass to make some serious progress in some projects that I was putting off for a while. Having an amazing group of friends to do activities with is the thing that's going to help fuel your concentration and discipline levels. It's literally fertilizer for the mind, not like shit in your mind. And depending on your circle, you never know what you're going to learn from the friends that you interact with, including what you should and shouldn't be doing with your time. Dave's girlfriend makes 20 TikTok dance videos a day. Okay, Don't want my girlfriend doing that. Don't let your other interests go. For the longest time, I felt if I wasn't pursuing filmmaking, I'd become a music producer, making badass beats and touring across the planet. It's probably why I've been drawn towards making music videos so I can combine these interest groups. For so long, I put off my music making interests, perceiving it as a waste of time to learn music production when I could be instead consuming film content. But this urge that I had just wouldn't leave me. I'd watch YouTube videos about music production and music gear for years and years, never putting any time and effort into actually learning how to make music myself. So after many years, I finally started to dedicate some of my weekends towards music production. I could have been getting ahead with YouTube videos and other work, but dedicating the time to grow this other interest made me feel a lot more excited to focus on the upcoming week's filmmaking tasks. And during the week when I was working on those tasks and making good progress on them, I felt way more like I deserved to have a weekend playing around with music making. Regret is a feeling most of us know is very hard to heal. I'm pondering a future when I'm in my 60s, 70s, deeply regretting having not made any music or putting any effort into this other area of creativity that I'd been so curious for years. Felt like something that I really needed to avoid. I had a somewhat similar experience with my relationship around video games. Just before starting film school, I slowly detoxed myself away from daily gaming, thinking it would make me generally way more productive, and I managed to keep this up for a fairly long time. But as the years drew on, I slowly started to feel like I was losing some kind of an element of connection that I used to have with a part of my childhood. The activity of gaming helped inspire my early interest in storytelling and what it felt like to be transported to another world through this medium. So when lockdown happened, I caved in and finally bought a Switch, and wow, a whole unnurtured part of myself just felt like it was finally being brought to light. And now I have an incredibly healthy relationship towards video games where they act as a reward for a good day's productive work. Some days I won't even play them at all because I don't feel like I focused or worked well enough to deserve this kind of treat. But it's amazing how much more motivated I am in the day if I'm able to reward myself with chilling with a PS5 game come evening time. You need to be honest with yourself about whether you did all you could to move your goals forward during the day to deserve that treat of playing video games. But if you didn't, don't worry, tomorrow's another day for you to hit that restart button and get back to work. You should check out this video if you want to be more effective as a creative working from home. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because if you don't, I'm going to tell YouTube what a nasty, nasty person you are. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.